This episode's Brotherhood Special is a coupon to Gregory's online course, an extended interview that I could not fit into the podcast. Membership is free at shavingwithchainsaws.com/brotherhood. Today on Shaving Chainsaws, we do the impossible by killing off the impostor syndrome and understand where confidence lies in your brain. Gregory Caremans of Human Dimensions, an expert of brain behavioral biology, gives us a lowdown on a new field of study called Neuralcognitive Behavioral Approach, or NBA for short. We take a trip through the development of the human species and why we all feel like an imposter or a fraud when we step out to do something new or bigger than ourselves. Of course, this wouldn't be Shaving with Chainsaws if we didn't tell you why you have and how to overcome your built-in self-suppression instinct. The monks have the answer, it turns out. The Catholic and Buddhist monks, that is. Prayer/meditation and curiosity for new truths cause your mind to be confident. There is a specific way, which Gregory happily explains. Now, Gregory lives in Belgium, and I kid you not, the sharks attacking the underwater internet lines here in Vietnam, our connection was scratchy and lagged at times. So my apologies for low quality. But you should fear not, because the best of what Gregory had to say was preserved by the deft, near-magical ability of our editor. We do play a game of Pants to Pants, and there is a surprise ending at the end, which causes Gregory's prefrontal cortex permanent damage. Well, at least so he proclaims. So let's get to the interview and prove to those internet-munching sharks they can't keep us down. Well, here we are on episode number 8 with Shaving with Chainsaws with Gregory Caremans of Human Dimensions. And Gregory is an expert in neurocognitive behavioral approach, which is basically all those little parts of our brain. How do they work, and how do they work together, and why do we think the way that we do? Does that sound about right?
That's exactly that. The neurocognitive and behavioral approach is about how our brain works and the impact on human behavior. And thank you for having me on the show. It's really a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Oh man, it's an honor to have you on here. I found you on Udemy of all places, and I took your course, and I said, this stuff is fantastic. It solves so many problems that I've been feeling. And then as I shared it with some of my own clients, they've had a great, let's say you've helped other people make tens of thousands of dollars. So thank you very much, my friend. So I figured we got to share this knowledge to the rest of the world. Tell me, how did you get into the study? Because I think this is something that came for you later in life, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I was lucky enough to meet one of the founders of the NBA. He's actually from over here in Belgium, in Brussels, and we started talking. He explained to me how he was looking for a new director to run this organization, which is the Institute of Neurocognitivism. And I had experience doing that, running that kind of organizations. I mean, training and development organizations. So I said, hey, why not me? And the more I looked into the stuff, into the theories behind it, the more I fell in love with it. And now I dedicated my life, basically, or at least my professional life, to teaching that to others, to helping others become better at whatever they do.
So I love that. Can you give us like a little overview of like what are some of the basic problems that we can overcome by using this relatively new study? Because it's only been around for about 25 years, which is new in the the history of things. But what are some of the big things that it tackles, and what can we overcome in our life because of it?
Well, the first and most obvious one is pressure and stress related to it. It's really all about the reptilian brain. Is one part here deep down in our brain, and knowing how it responds, how it reacts. You can help yourself first of all, stay in control, stay calm, but also, and that's a very interesting part of the MBA, is that you can start influencing others and help others get out of their reptilian brain and use more advanced part of their brain, which is here in the prefrontal part, right behind our forehead. And just through our communication, the way of asking questions, of behaving, we can influence others doing that switching from one part of the brain to the other. So there's the whole stress part and pressure part. There is a lot about trust and confidence. and it's very strongly related to how people work together. Because if there's no trust, if people don't have confidence in themselves, you will see time and over again how people just fail to work together and to do things in a constructive way.
Yeah, I like how you said it was like you get to help other people change things. So it's sort of like Jedi mind tricks for evolved people.
Well, may the force be with you. It's not quite like the force. However, it's some people. Well, as with everything, actually, it's closer to the force than you might think, because some people say like, well, you could use this knowledge for doing like negative things, and
Right.
well, in the end, you can do that with everything, right?
Right.
It's every invention or every development can be used to do good things and bad things. Now, but that only shows it's so strong. It just works, and it has a lot of potential to do well.
Yeah, it's like it
During the
really is
university.
hardwired into our brain that the way this stuff works. So let's start off with the question, which is, yeah, I know because I studied a little bit from your own work, but where's that place where we really find confidence? And then I guess the first question I want to ask is confidence something that is like a general experience, or is there actually a part in our brain where we can identify where confidence lives?
Well, you know how you hear a lot of people say, "Yeah, come to my workshop, and then within a couple of hours, I will help you gain self-confidence, and you will be full of self-confidence and this and that."
Yeah.
Unfortunately, from a brain perspective, that's not how it works. Our brain, there is this little part in our brain. It's called the Paleolympic brain. It's a terrible word. You know, all those scientists who come up with these names, they never thought about the general public. They need to find
Yeah.
smoother words. Anyway, the limbic amygdala. It's a little part of that little part. The limbic amygdala is responsible for our self-confidence, how we feel towards ourselves. And there are a lot of theories behind that. One of the evolutionary theories say that it comes from when the animals started to live in herds, live together in big groups, they had to position themselves towards others, and then they needed to define who's the boss, basically. And based on that, you will see how there will be a certain hierarchy coming up very instinctively, very like smoothly. You don't even need to actually fight like animals do to define who's on top and who's not. And that's all located in that limbic amygdala. Now,
So I guess what I hear you saying is like that part of the brain helps us have relationships inside of like herds. Is that what you're?
yes. So relations towards the people around us, we will know who's the boss, who's not the boss, and basically it's all about self-confidence. So it's all about dominant behavior and submissive behavior. Who will behave like, you know, the typical alpha male stuff. That is typical Paleolympic behavior. I'll try not to use too technical words, of course, but it's all located in that part of the brain. And the interesting part is, first of all, we're not born with that. It develops in our early childhood, from 2.5 years old until we're 12, and fixed for life, basically. Well, it can still evolve slowly, but there won't be huge major changes. It just doesn't work that way. That part of the brain is so old that it just doesn't. It's not that flexible.
What do you mean? Like, what do you mean by they won't have like a lot of changes? Like, we can't evolve, or we can't change it, or we as a human species aren't going to be able to change that much, or is that almost the same thing?
Well, actually, as individuals, we are, once it's fixed. The bad news is basically if it will take quite some time. It can change, but it will take quite some time to be able to change that. There is a hack that I will talk about later, but the quick fix doesn't exist. I cannot make you from a very from a person who has a huge lack of self-confidence. Within 24 hours, you cannot change that person into one with uber self-confidence. That will never ever happen.
Okay, so you can't make somebody change really quickly, but there is a pathway to work on it so you can kind of step up. So I guess that really leads into the next question, which is, why do we have this resistance inside of us to progress to the next level? I mean, it's really interesting where we can have this cognitive thought of knowing what's the right thing to do, and cognitively we can know it's a great idea, but as we begin to act out our plans, we will start to self-sabotage ourselves. What purpose does that serve at all for us? And I mean, it's one of the most weirdest things when I talk to even really successful people. They'll be like, I can't do it. And I'll say to them, well, what would you instruct your friend to do? And they'll say, well, I know exactly what to do. Do this, this, and this, and this. So why can't we do it for ourselves, what we can so easily tell others to do?
Yeah, no, it's weird. And it happened to me as well. In my first job, one of my first jobs, I ended up as a journalist, traveling around the world. It was the greatest job, but I was just this kid coming out of college, and I couldn't believe it myself. And I was like, come on, this is not real. I mean, it's not, I'm like lying to these people I'm interviewing. Right. I'm not really this hotshot journalist. And then it took, I realized myself, like I felt myself as if I was a fraud. Now others didn't feel or see me as a fraud, but I felt it myself. So yes, and from there onwards, you can sabotage yourself. The interesting part is, it's again about this Paleolympic brain of ours. That part of the brain, it's, as I said, it's slow to learn, slow to evolve, and that has a reason. Why? Because when we're in a herd, when we're in a group, we're looking for the group needs stability to survive, because that's why herds exist, right? It's to have a higher chance of surviving when they face predators.
Right.
So in order for the group to survive, we need a boss, we need a leader, and we need other people to follow the leader. And when we're in a situation where one of the elements, the individuals in the herd, step up and say like, hey, well, now I'm the new boss. Well, that's not good. It's dangerous to have internal conflicts in a herd. So that's why the Paleolympic has embedded in itself this slow development, this slow learning process. Because if every half hour you would have one of the elements, one of the individuals stepping up and saying, "Now I'm just sick of following you, and I want to be the new boss," right, you would have constant internal struggles in a herd, and you would have constantly those conflicts which would undermine the purpose itself of having a herd. So the herd is basically, let's unite against a common foe. That's it.
Right.
So that's why that brain has embedded in itself the lack of possibility to evolve too rapidly, because it needs stability. So we ourselves, we are social animals. If there is one thing that really characterizes us as a species, us human beings, it's that we are social animals. And as social animals, we're looking for that stability. We need that stability to survive. Of course, I'm talking as if it was 50,000 years ago and we were still roaming the earth.
That's what I was going to go. It's like, okay, great. We are a herd animal, but we're also this evolved, or like this a more intelligent herd animal. And we don't necessarily have to follow, just one person, just because we can go create our own individual groups and we can become leaders in something else. But yet we still have that fraud feeling. So what, I know you've got some things. What can we do to get rid of that feeling, or maybe step out of it? What's the first thing we have to do so that this, whatever the heck we want to call it, doesn't control the rest of our life, and we're not able to accomplish our dreams that we feel inside of ourselves?
look, there are two ways to work here. And the first one is the one that most people use and that we've dealt with for the last 50,000 years. And that is basically little by little develop and learn. And then what you see is a kid like me who came out of college and you're 25 years old. When you look at that same kid 20 years later, slowly over time, if things have evolved well, if that kid had several promotions, etc., he or she would end up having a more self-confidence, etc. And you see that usually people 40, 45 years old, they have a lot of self-confidence, and they're just people who know their stuff, and they're not just running around and thinking they're so full of themselves, etc. As a compensation when you're younger, that might happen sometimes. Anyway, and that's just the long road. That's just the painful road, because I don't want anybody to believe you need to wait 20 years to develop success, because that's not how it works. There is actually one part of our brain, I already talked about it, that nature gave us an incredible tool. It's here, it's the prefrontal brain, the prefrontal cortex, and that is basically it helps us adapt to any given situation. That prefrontal brain is really the way to overcome an obstacle. And to put it really in a very simplistic way, what the prefrontal brain does is when you get to an obstacle, let's say a wall, instead of hitting your wall with your head and then going back and then trying again and then trying again until or the wall or your head breaks, well, your prefrontal brain will say, hey, wait a minute, let's see if we can go around it or over it instead of breaking our head against it. And the prefrontal brain will look for ways to adapt to change. Now, the interesting part is our brain is, of course, interconnected. However, you can really do switch from one part of the brain to the other. The reptilian brain, as I said before, there's the polylimbic, the neolimbic that we haven't even talked about, which is all about motivations. And this famous prefrontal brain. That prefrontal brain, you can consciously activate it. And what happens with that? Well, maybe one step back. In our brain, there are 4 different parts, as I was saying.
Yeah.
And you have to look at it like people in a car. And you can basically, there's only one of the 4 who has the steering wheel. So there's one driving, and then he can give that steering wheel to any other part of the brain, to any other person in the car. And when that happens, well, there's actually at all times only one person who is driving the car. Of course, he can still be influenced because of 3 others. They are there and they're saying, like, no, don't do that, no, don't do that. But there's basically only one in charge. And when you give that to the prefrontal brain, when you let your prefrontal brain be in charge, the paleolimbic and the reptilian, they will just not be in charge. So you will be able to overcome those fears, those inhibitions, those internal demons you might have who hold you back by using your prefrontal brain.
So how does one switch from, say, the paleolimbic or even the reptilian brain to the prefrontal cortex?
Yeah, that's a $1 million question, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, there are a lot of ways to do that. Our body, our brain, is quite complex, and there are several ways towards the prefrontal brain. We've been experimenting with this for probably 5,000, 10,000 years, and people have been very successful.
So not very long. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Now, actually, because now with all the brain scans and everything, we can see in real time what's happening within our brain, and we can see when it lights up. But now we do realize that actually the monks in Tibet 5,000 years ago, they were already using the same techniques we use today for activating that prefrontal brain. So already there are several ways, as I said, and without knowing it, without realizing it, we already do it every day, probably, or hopefully for most of us. And it's in the little things, and it's sometimes very simple. Don't worry, I will give you a couple of very concrete example. So there is actually, I'll explain to you how it works, and then you will see how it can be applied in any given situation. How it works basically is we have two ways of functioning. One way is the automatic mode, let's put it that way, and the other way is the adaptive mode. Adaptive mode being the prefrontal. The automatic mode is everything you do always, all the time, and that you're so used to do. So, for example, it's driving your car. You know, it's very complex. You need to use both your legs, your arms, your eyes, and you have to change gears and all that at the same time. We're able to do that thanks to our automatic mode. We're just not thinking about it anymore. We're just doing it. Now, anytime we use our automatic mode, when we're supposed to, when we're hitting a roadblock, that's when trouble begins. When you have faced an obstacle and you stay in that automatic mode, you know that, well, the solution isn't there. The solution is in the adaptive mode. So basically what happens is, for example, you are, let's say you can try that out anytime. You go home, talk with your partner or your kids, and you can tell them, this weekend let's do something. Just offer them to do something you usually never do. And then look at the reaction. If they go like, that's stupid, I don't want to do that. Basically, they're stuck in their automatic mode because they're just not used to it. They're not open to change. If they go like,
so anytime somebody tells me that's stupid, I just go, oh, you're in your automatic mode. That what you?
Well,
you know, I'm playing with you a little bit.
Well, to put it bluntly and to oversimplify, my answer would be yes. Because it's that way. When people are not open to other options, they're just stuck in their way of thinking. That's the automatic mode. Yeah. So the prefrontal mode will be actually, if you want to know if the prefrontal mode is active, you will see people at least be interested. Like, interesting. Why would you say that? They would start actually ask questions. You know, like, why would you say that? Why would you think that would be interesting? Well, tell me more. I want to know why you would like to go there. Have you read something new about it? Blah, blah, blah. So,
I started joking with you because I was being kind of my girlfriend has a nice word for me. She calls me a D sometimes. We'll keep this podcast nice and friendly, kid friendly. But she calls me I'm being a D. She says to me, and that's because I'm just playing with her. And I was being a little bit of one with you. But you know, you brought up something really interesting, which is there are a lot of times that I run up against that resistance where people are just like, and I want them to be more curious. Or like sometimes I think, you're not understanding what I'm saying. You're actually resisting against what I'm bringing to you because I'm trying to help out. And I get that response of, no, you know, whatever. And I think you're about ready to lay down the most helpful tip. What do we do when somebody's in that space when they're like, no, whatever. We're like, no, I just want you to be curious with me. I'm here to help you. What can we do?
Prefrontal brain is an exercise. It's a lot of people say the brain is like a muscle. The more you use it, the better it works. It's not a muscle, so we agree on that. However, it's true that the more you will switch, the easier it will become. People who have been stuck in their automatic mode for 20 years, it will be very hard to get them out of their habits, out of their automatic mode. So there's not a magic trick like a magic wand, like, and now I want you to be prefrontal. Ching! Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. However, with people who are more open and who are more used to go to the prefrontal mode, the switch will be easier, will be faster. There are several ways. First of all, the magical word here is, if there would be one, is curiosity. How can you make people curious about what you're going to offer, to propose? You want people to do something with you, for you, whatever. You want them to collaborate. You want them to go with you. Make them curious about the benefits not maybe the benefits for them, but the benefit. Make them curious about it. So don't just say, let's go to the mountain instead of to the sea. Just start asking questions. Make them induce them. Make them think themselves about positive outcomes about something. You know, it's like you need to tease them. You need to activate that prefrontal brain, make them get out of their habit and, interesting. I wonder what would happen if we would do that, or just take a little portion about it. How do you make people curious?
Yeah. Okay. So what I hear you saying is that people can't be curious and stuck in like a negative mindset is maybe one thing, or that mindset that is on autopilot. So those two types of thinkings are almost mutually exclusive. So if you can get somebody in a curious mindset, maybe ask them questions, or even beginning to dream a little bit or think about something new, it automatically stops them from that automatic mindset that gets them kind of stuck in a rut. And that's why curiosity works so well to help people get out of that I was going to say lower form of brain lower form of your brain and into the neocortex.
Exactly. Now I'll give you concrete stuff, because I've all just been blabbering here about how fantastic this brain and the switch work. But very concretely, how can you do that? For example, timeouts are great for that. You're just talking and you see the other person is reactive very defensively. So you just, hey, time out. I'm trying to offer you, to propose you something, and I feel you're very defensive about it. Why? What's happening within you? Why are you so defensive? Make it a timeout. So you just force them to get out of their automatic mode and start thinking about their behavior. That's a good one. There's another situation how you can work on that is, well, now you're just doing like that, but think about it. How would you react over 10 years when you look back at this situation? Again, you take them out of their current situation, project them in another, and let them have a different look at today. Think about it. Over 10 years, how would you, what would you think about it? What a missed opportunity this would be if let's say this works and we do this and that and that. Over 10 years, if you miss this, how would you feel? Make them change perspective. Make them look at the situation from a different point of view. Another one is, well, okay, you don't agree. Maybe, well, that's, the exercise of the different point of views. Just take different personalities, people, positions that would be, and try to imagine how they would feel about that situation. So, for example, what would Obama think about this? What would the Pope think about this? What would God think about this? What would, I don't know, your mother think about this? What would our kids think about it? And just force them to take, again, a new perspective. Each time, all these exercises, which is basically getting out of the automatic mode and into a new perspective, looking at things in a different way, will help trigger that prefrontal brain. Will it work all the time? Well, the more you do it, the easier it will be, and the faster people will be able to do that switch. When actually you're aware that switch is possible, people who know about it will make the switch almost automatically, almost instantly, once they're aware that they're stuck in their automatic mode.
Yeah, this brings up so many interesting ideas around like how I can even get myself out of that the automatic mode, which is associated to the fraud feeling, the imposter feeling, because that is part of the automatic mode, is that if I begin to ponder different situations or what other opinions might be, that I don't even have to agree with those things that I'm thinking about, but that in itself will kick me out of the reject or the imposter syndrome and the fraud syndrome, and I will be able to see more opportunities, and my anxiety will actually go down at that point, and I will be able to progress further in what I set out to do just by looking at the different opportunities, even if they're not right or even if I don't agree with them.
Exactly. There's one thing that I really want to add. It's not because you're in prefrontal mode that you agree with everything. It doesn't work that way. The prefrontal mode means that you look at the different options and you make your own opinion, your own decision. Instead of automatic mode, not even listening and saying talk to the hand because the head ain't listening. That's basically what's happening with the prefrontal mode. You're open and you're ready to accept new things. Doesn't mean you will. It just means you give a fair chance to new things. And the fraud feeling, actually, that's again in that paleolimbic mode, which is part of the automatic mode, and the paleolimbic brain. The fraud feeling is typical. It's what we call the rebound effect. When you go up too fast, there's what we call in the social, economic status, and just impacting that paleolimbic, that what's my position in the herd. When you go up too fast, for entrepreneurs who have who are very successful, they will feel that everybody will be confronted with that at one point or another. When you go up too fast, you have to go back down to get back to the balance, that famous balance of the herd that I was talking about earlier. And the rebound effect is just a normal it's the brain trying to, that paleolimbic brain trying to find balance again. So you go up too much, so you go back down, and then you will go back up, and it's a roller coaster basically, and it's trying to bring you back down because it's not your place. You have to know your place back down there, and it's and once you get out of that paleolimbic brain, once you switch on the prefrontal brain, you don't get that anymore. The prefrontal brain, actually, what it does is it will the typical feeling when your prefrontal is active is serenity. Serenity is the key word in prefrontal brain. You just feel calm. You feel that you're in control of whatever situation, and control of your feelings, of your emotions, and that's the huge gain of the prefrontal.
So can I? I'm just thinking about this. I wonder if it's possible. Let's say I just had a big success in my business, or even like I got a promotion or whatever it is. I've actually raised up a little bit of a level, and then I'm working, I'm operating at this level, and then all of a sudden I begin to have this fear, or I'm having the fear, or I'm feeling like a fraud. And as you said, my brain wants to reset itself back down to a lower level. If I'm able to recognize that emotion going on inside of me, the best thing for me to do is do things which would cause serenity, to make me feel like I'm in control. So meditation at this point, prayer, if something that helps you along the lines with that, or even I think maybe doing a certain type of sports. If you're somebody who likes to do sports, where you can get in that sense of serenity feeling, or tell me if I'm wrong on this one, because I'm taking a total leap here. Like maybe I do something that's a little more cognitive based. I don't know if like maybe would chess help out in that situation, because I'm beginning to use more of my prefrontal cortex at that time. Are those all sound correct?
Well, actually, you're spot on. Meditation, as I was saying, the Buddhist monks, basically what they've been doing is activating their prefrontal cortex. It's funny how when you say you meditate and you think like my brain, empty your brain of thoughts and everything. When you look at the brain scan at that moment, you will see that prefrontal brain just firing in all directions. You're not emptying anything. It's unbelievably active at that point. So just not those conscious thoughts of the neolimbic that you will hear anymore. But the prefrontal is extremely active at that point. So prayer, yes, absolutely. For people who are religious, prayer is actually also activating the prefrontal brain. Now, chess is an interesting one, because as chess, because I never thought of it in that way, but you're totally right, because chess is all about planning, right? You need to plan not 1 or 2, but 5 or 10 steps ahead, what you will do, what the other will do. And that is the realm of the prefrontal brain. The prefrontal brain is the one that helps us planning ahead. So yes, totally. Chess can totally help you get there. And one more thing about meditation. Traditional meditation, Buddhist monks, it's days, weeks, and stuff like that. And even smaller exercises, it's minimum 20-25 minutes. You don't need 25 minutes to activate your prefrontal brain. As I said, once you're used to it, it can be almost instantaneous. Now, a short exercise that you can do, that anyone can do, is closing your eyes and just listening to the different sounds that you hear. You need to close your eyes because visually we get so much input, it distracts. So you listen to sounds, you listen to your own breathing, you feel your body against your chair, your feet on the ground. You just try to get as many impulses, as many senses aware of what's going on, and that will switch on your brain. And do that for between 3 to 5 minutes, no more. And that will help you switch on the prefrontal brain. For someone who is absolutely not used to that, who's absolutely not used to activating the prefrontal brain, this one will hit the spot for sure. That always does the trick. It takes around 5 minutes. Just calm down and start listening and be conscious of what's going on around you. Doing that with the breathing and everything, doing that will activate your brain. So anyone listening now and wants to know what it feels like to have this, how do you know that your prefrontal brain is active?
Yeah, that was going to be one of the questions I asked is like, how do I know when the difference is there? I think we can all know when I'm in the fraud syndrome or that, the automatic one, because that's when we were panicking. We're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? But yeah, how do I know when I'm in the prefrontal cortex?
Well, basically, the automatic mode is a standby mode. It's the normal, it's a standard operational procedure, the automatic mode is where we're in all the time, most of the time. It's only when we're doing something that we're not used to, that we're supposed to switch. If we're not switching, we stay stuck. That's when problems arise. So how do we know?
Well, say that again, because that was a beautiful gem. What did you exactly say again? You said when we...
most of the time we're on... Our standard operational procedure is being in automatic mode. We do the things we do, and we do them very efficiently in automatic mode. However, whenever we hit an obstacle, a roadblock that we need to adapt, we need to change, we're supposed to switch to the prefrontal mode. When we don't, when we stay stuck in automatic mode, that's when the problems arise.
All right. I want to get back to when we feel it, but there's the thing that I want to ask, which is why don't we just automatically stay in prefrontal mode the whole time? I mean, it seems like it would be more optimal for us as humans if we're staying in the prefrontal mode. So why don't we just do that?
Yeah, I'm sorry to disagree with you. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't work at all, because the prefrontal, if you would, okay, let me put it that way. What I'm going to suggest is quite dangerous, actually. But if you try to...
we like dangerous things around here, because that's why we shave with chainsaws. So dangerous is good.
You drive a car. Do you have a car? You drive your car?
I have a motorbike around here in Vietnam. But still, I drove a car back in the States.
Now, remember the first day you went in your car or on your motorcycle, whatever, and remember how it was, that you needed to watch out for everything. It was... At that point, actually, what you needed was your prefrontal brain to be active. What's happening with your prefrontal brain is that suddenly you start thinking in a more thorough way. You start looking at all the options, all the possibilities. So when you drive your car and you start activating your how to drive, suddenly you switch back to beginner status, basically. What I'm trying to say is, mastery is not in the prefrontal mode. Mastery is in the automatic mode. It's by repetition and repetition and repetition that we become so good at something that we don't need to think about it anymore. However, to learn those new things, we need the prefrontal mode. It will never get into our brain without going through the prefrontal mode. So it's opening up to to new opportunities, to new things. Being able to learn them, we need to be very attentive. However, doing everything like that, it would take ages to do anything. I mean, imagine writing something down and just looking at, and in prefrontal mode, being aware of every single little detail. It would take ages to do anything.
Okay.
So it's not actually, the automatic mode is extremely efficient,
right,
because it helps us do complex things in a very efficient way. The prefrontal mode is not efficient at all, but it's extremely thorough.
So the mastery, as you said before, is in the automatic mode, and obviously that mastery is where we're also the most efficient with our lives, because we're not spending so much energy trying to see everything and try to take everything in, and we're trying to figure out what to filter out. But the difficulty is that when we are in mastery or even automatic mode, it is a comfortable space for us. And that's why also the fraud feeling wants us to make us go back to that other type of sense of mastery that we're in, because we know it's comfortable in that space. And so if we're bringing this whole conversation back around to know that when we're moving into another space, we're having to create mastery, and our mind wants us to put us into a space of comfort, which is mastery. And so what we have to be able to understand is that when we are experiencing those moments of not feeling comfortable, we are correctly assessing the situation, that we aren't in a complete sense of mastery yet. And that's why we're experiencing those emotions. And so what we need to do is recognize that we're not in mastery yet. It's okay. Force our mind to go to the prefrontal cortex so that we can gain the mastery that's necessary by learning the correct moment that's there. So it'll do two things once we do that. One, it will stop the automatic feeling of fraud, and two, it will give us the ability to have the mastery that our brain is really looking for.
Christopher, congratulations. It seems your prefrontal is active. Yeah, it's exactly that. That's it. You start making new connections. You start seeing links where you didn't see them before. That's when your prefrontal is active. You just, you're opening up to new possibilities, new things that you haven't seen before.
Okay, so to answer the question, how do we know we're in our prefrontal cortex? I know we kind of talked a little bit about it, but let's give the straight answer for everybody. So everybody, just, if they're listening, they feel like I got the straight answer.
Okay. First, serenity. You feel calm. Second is you don't care about what other people think. It's your own opinion that is important. It's not like do this because what will the neighbors say? I'm sorry, I don't care about what the neighbors say or think. It's my life that is important. You've got several dimensions like that will show you what when your prefrontal is active. You will be open for adaptation. You're open for suggestions. Not saying you will accept them. You're just open to them. You will listen to them. You will in your prefrontal mode. You will weigh out things. You will look at different options and make sure that you make the best decision. Yeah. It's a whole list there. There's 6 dimensions like that, and it's but in general, the overall feeling is one of calm, of being in control. When there's a crisis and everybody lose their head and you stay calm, bingo.
That's when you're in your prefrontal cortex. Yeah. All right, so now we're into the game mode, and what I have for you is called Pants No Pants. You've probably never heard of this game before, and I know it's a surprise for everybody. First, you have to tell me, what is a nonprofit organization that you support?
Nonprofit organization that I support.
Something you want to donate money to. Possibly you would donate money to.
I lived and worked in Colombia, South America, for a while. I worked with homeless people and street children there, and the organization I worked with was called Pocalana.
Okay, Pocalana. We'll figure out how to get money to them. But first you have to guess something. Because this is the podcast, you have to guess, do I have pants or no pants on right now? Because I could have pants on, or I may not have pants on. And this is how the rule goes. If I am wearing pants, I stand up and show them to you. If I'm not wearing pants, I just stay sitting. And then this is it. And if you guess correctly, I donate $25 to your favorite organization, which is Pocalana. So am I wearing pants or no pants?
I really do hope you were wearing pants, so I say pants.
I am not wearing pants today. No pants. This is the first time I win. Everybody usually catches me on it, so no pants today. I do. There's other things on, but it's not pants. So congratulations to myself. The tally is now 2-1. 2 people have won. Gregory, unfortunately. We still might do something for Poca. What was it again? Pocalana.
Pocalana.
Yeah. All right, my friend.
I have this mental image now, and that's my day is ruined.
I know. That's it. That's what's part of being on Shaving with Chainsaws. You just never know what's going to happen. It's dangerous around here.
I see that.
All right, thank you. At this point, I want people to be able to connect with you. How can they get a hold of you? And what are more things that they can learn from you in the process? Because I know that what we've touched on is it's really just a sliver of everything that you can really provide for people. So why don't you tell people a little bit more of what you do in general and how they can get a hold of you? And then feel free to mention your Udemy course and a couple other places they can find you.
Sure. Now, the first place basically I started my own organization a year ago, and it's called Human Dimension, without an S. I don't know if you can provide a link.
Yeah, I'll put it in the podcast page.
Exactly. So Human Dimension, there's a Facebook page where people can go and see all updates. I always try to find the most interesting articles related to the brain, etc. Now, if you really want to dive into the Neurocognitive and Behavioral Approach, the NBA, as you mentioned, I have several courses on Udemy. You can look by my name or just, regarding leadership, management, etc. There is Neuroscience for Leadership and Management. That's the name of the course. Now, I know that the course is a little bit expensive. It's 199 euros. But, of course, here for the chainsaw guys, I can give you a coupon that would let's go down to €19 instead of 199.
Well, thank you so much. That's very generous of you. And I know that you really should check this out. I obviously don't get anything from it, and he's not going to get much. It's basically, I think you end up getting maybe even half of that because the rest of it's got to go to Udemy.
Something like that.
All right. My friend, it has been a complete honor to have you on the show. Thank you so much for just giving so many knowledge bombs that my brain is hurting today.
Well, it was a real pleasure to be here. It's always great to talk about this stuff. And that's actually my biggest problem with this whole theories is that once I get started, I can hardly stop. It's so exciting and so, just fun and revigorating.
It is absolutely fun. We'll have to have you back on here when we've got a couple more topics to talk about, because I'm sure you've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually now preparing a course on stress and how to deal with pressure, and it's going to be quite, we'll see if that can be of interest for you.
Oh, absolutely, it would be. All right, Gregory, thanks a lot for being on the show.
Thanks, bye.
Because you made it to the very end of an episode, it means that you are a loyal fan. As a fan, would you leave a 5-star review on iTunes by going to shavingwithchainsaws.com/iTunes? I will personally thank you on the next episode. And until then, keep on doing the impossible.